interactive land, if that's what you want to call it nowadays. Yeah, my name's Craig Sherrington. I'm the executive head chef at Lumley Castle in Chesley Street, which is just on the outskirts of Durham, between Durham and Newcastle. Beautiful place, an actual castle. It's not just called a castle, it is an actual castle. A little bit about myself. I started my learning career at the tender old age of 16 at Lancaster and Morecambe College up in the northwest, because I'm a Lancashire lad originally. And then moved on from there to the Midlands, Worcestershire, in down just below Birmingham, to the Ligonier Arms in Broadway, where I was a second commis chef there. Moving on quite swiftly to Lords of the Manor in Upper Slaughter, where I worked for a chef called Clive Dixon. He was a Michelin star chef at the time. And then from there to Le Champion Sauvage in Cheltenham, which was a Michelin star when I started, 2 Michelin star when I left. And then quite hot-footed to London. At that time, everybody needed to work in London to be a chef, or to get your chef wings, if that's what you want to call it. So I did the little stint in London. And then from there back up to the northwest, where I was senior sous at Lakeside Hotel on Windermere, which is a 4-star hotel in the Lake District. From then, when I was 27, took my first step into head chefship and took on a place called Stores Hall in Windermere, which is on the opposite side of the lake, just a little bit further up, where I took it from having no accolades to 2 rosettes. We were just on the verge of stepping off onto 3 rosettes and the Michelin star bracket, when I was lured away, unfortunately, by more money to go and work somewhere else a little bit closer to home. But didn't quite work out. So then from there, I did a little bit of consultancy till I actually decided what I wanted to do. And then me and my wife took on our first pub because we decided that we could do it ourselves and we wanted to have a go. So we took on a tenancy from a brewery called Robinson's, which is a Stockport-based brewery, which is just south of Manchester. And then we were there for 5 years. We had took it from an ailing pub, which is quite an ironic term to use. So it was £500 a week that was turnover. We took it into a place that was taking nearly £10,000 a week. And we got into the Good Food Guide, the AA Good Pub Guide, the Michelin Guide, and quite a few other things, winning some local awards in local magazines, in the Life magazine. So it's Cumbria Life and Lancashire and Lake District Life. We won some awards for our food and service in there as well. We decided after 5 years of being there, we wanted to take it out on our own, literally. So we bought Virginia House in Ulverston. It's at this point that I started on BBC Two's Great British Menu in 2018. And I competed for the Northwest. I got all the way to finals week. I beat 2 guys. Well, I didn't beat 2 guys because Ellis came with me to finals week. Ellis Barry, who's a bit of a big name on the television now. He does Ready Steady Cook and Saturday Kitchen and Sunday Brunch and all that kind of stuff. We took our dishes, got through to the judges on the Friday, which was really good. And then we both got through to finals week. So there's 9 of us in finals week in 2018 rather than the normal 8, which there would have been. And I got my main course nearly all the way to the banquet. I got 4 10s in finals week, and I got 4 10s in the judges in the first week as well. And I got pipped to the post by Tom Brown, who's now a really good friend of mine. But it was really nail-biting. And I got told that if my dish would have got through to the banquet, it would have won the banquet, because there was lots of people that were rooting for me to get through. But unfortunately, I didn't get through that year, and I haven't been had the chance to get back onto Great British Menu to be able to do it again, even though I've been asked a few times. I'd love to get back and do it one day, but I've just got a few other things on the go that inhibited me from being able to do that. So you never know, one day you might see me back on there, which would be quite cool. I'd love to go and do that again. And that takes us up to present day, really. So after leaving Virginia House in Ulverston, me and my wife decided to close that down because it was all kind of consuming. Basically, it was a restaurant with rooms. So we had 8 letting rooms. We had a bar. We had a restaurant. So we were serving breakfast. We were doing lunch. We were doing dinner, plus the bar, plus the rooms, and we were at it 24/7. 365 really, because we were open on Christmas Day as well, and it just meant that we weren't getting to see much of our family. I've got 3 young children, well, 118, 6, and 10. We were actually doing teams in the other rooms at the moment in there, so they're all on different devices and our teams lessons as well. So so from there I decided to move on and get back into normal life. That's what you want to call it, even though chef life isn't a normal life. And I went to Glen Eagles in Scotland, which is a 5 red-star hotel and has been classed as one of the best hotels in the world, where I was head chef of private dining. That entailed anything that wasn't in a restaurant. So from a tasting for 2 people or in-room dining. I don't know if anybody has been watching the television programs that are on, I think it's Channel 4 or Channel 5 at the moment, where they're going behind the scenes of these big luxury hotels. You can actually have in-room dining, which is room service, but also if you require a chef to come and cook something in your room, you can actually have that done as well. So we used to actually go into people's bedrooms and cook in front of them in the bedrooms and so on and so forth, which was pretty amazing and pretty good to see as well. There were 6 restaurants on site, which were looked after by other head chefs and other chefs. But I looked after anything that wasn't in a restaurant. So anything, like I say, from a tasting to 2 people, to in-room dining, to barbecues over at the shooting lodge, which was where the fishing and shooting and all that kind of thing came along, to banquets to 1,000 people. So which was a massive, massive learning curve for me, because I've never done anything like that before in my career. I've always gone down the route of fine dining, but I thought I needed another string to my bow to be able to kind of just round myself off as a chef and make what I'm doing kind of the whole package in a way, and make me interesting for anybody out there that's looking for a head chef of that description. So I was there a little bit, and then a guy called Gordon Cartwright, who is a big name in the culinary world and the hospitality industry. He was the senior inspector for AA for a short while, and he's done other things called visionary dining, and he did the Cannonball Chef's Run and all that kind of stuff. He is now the consultant general manager at Lumley Castle, and actually approached me to find out whether I want to come and work for him to take Lumley Castle to the next stage. It was, again, a very run-down place with very old ideas and staff that had been there for a very, very long time. And I think that what they wanted to do was bring it into the 21st century, kicking and screaming, which were what we're doing to it, basically. And from there to get rosettes for the place, as well as to improve their function facilities and their dining and all that kind of stuff, and in-room dining. We're not going as far as in-room dining where we cook in the rooms, but we're going as far as increasing or improving the entire offering that's going on there, which has taken, I know we haven't been there a lot in the last year, and I've only been there since September 2019, but it's taken a long, long time to be able to just put ideas in place or move things forward to get that little next step closer to better ideas, which included taking on a brand new team of chefs when I first started, because the old chefs pretty much left as soon as I started, because it's pretty much how it goes. But the hard thing was I had a team of 10 chefs at the beginning of the year, and unfortunately I had to make 6 of them redundant because the business at the castle obviously went downhill rapidly when COVID kicked in. So when we get back and get out of all this lot again, I'm going to have the job to do of building that team again, hopefully taking some of them chefs back if they want to come back, which would be absolutely amazing. But if not, finding a completely new team of chefs. So that's pretty much who I am, where I am, apart from in my kitchen at home at the moment. And when we get back out there into the real world of being normal again, then that's where I will be at Lumley Castle for the foreseeable future, because I'm really enjoying being there as well. It's a massive challenge, and probably one of the biggest challenges of my career, if I'm really, really honest, getting it where Gordon wants it to be. And it's my vision as well to make it happen. So yeah, let's get on. So today, guys, I'm going to do a couple of fish dishes with the same fish. And just show you what we can do with like kind of one fish, but in different ways. So let's go and grab it. So here we are. Any ideas? Ooh, fully fall off the plate. Any ideas what this fish might be?
Mackerel.
That's correct, mackerel. What kind of fish is it?
Sea fish.
It's a sea fish. I'm looking for another 2 things that this fish is.
Is it oily?
It's an oily fish, and it's
round.
It's round, so it's a round oily fish, a round oily sea fish. Yeah, high in omega-3 and like trans fatty acids and things like that. So it's really, really good. How can I tell this fish is fresh? I know it's fresh because I bought it this morning, but how can I tell it's fresh?
The smell of the fish.
The smell of the fish.
If the
Someone said it in the
muscle
background there, it shouldn't smell fishy, it should smell of the sea. So a couple of little points, so we'll just go through them. Its eyes should be nice and glazed and not sunken and dull, which that one is. Its gills should be nice and red, like bright red. I don't know if you can see in there, you can't see it because they are really, really dark, bright red. Also, if this fish is as fresh as I know it is, and it's still got its guts in as well, so I definitely know how fish it is, the rigor mortis should still be in there. Anybody know what the rigor mortis is? Okay, unfortunately, it's something that happens. Yeah, Jake?
It's when it goes all stiff and.
It is when it goes all stiff. And if I hold this fish in the middle and bounce it on my finger, you should see it's pretty much as flat as a board. If this was an old fish, the rigger would have disappeared, and then the fish would have gone all loose again, and it would have been a big arch like that holding over my finger. But that is literally balanced on my finger, and it's as stiff as a board to show that is a really, really fresh mackerel. This was picked up from my local fishmonger this morning in Walsingham, and he caught this this morning also. So it was brought in from on the boat this morning, and this is as fresh as you want to get it. So let's get into prepping this. So I'm going to take it over onto my board over here. I'm just going to pop it onto this whiteboard on this board because that's the way I need to do it. See if I can bring you guys a little bit closer. I don't know if I'm going to be able to tilt you a bit closer, but oh. There we go. You should be able to see in the corner there. So what I'm going to do is going to take this fish off. So I'm going to go behind its pectoral fin, in on a nice little angle. And then some people would go down through it and straight across.
Pain.
Sorry? Okay, I guess that wasn't for me. So some people will go straight down through it and across the fillet in one slice, but I like to get as much meat off the bone as possible. So I like to go down the backbone, over the spine, and then down the other side. But what I'll do first, I'm going to leave the guts in actually, because I'm not going to bother with any of that. So I'm going to take it down. So what I need to do now is I need to come down the backbone all the way as close as I can. All the way to the other side. Really nice sharp knife is good or key for this as well. Okay, so you can see that's taken off there nicely. Another way of telling if mackerel is nice and fresh or not is if the flesh is almost clear. It's like a browny pinky colour and it's almost clear. Older mackerel, the flesh goes quite creamy and quite white, whereas you can see as this has got a really nice grey, almost opaqueness to it. So I'll take the other side off. Same again. Angling by the side of its head. And what I like to do on this one is just pop the head over the side of the board so it lays flat, so the spine lays flat on the board. And I can hear as I'm going down, I don't know if you can actually pick that up with the microphone, but I can hear the knife just running against the bones as I'm working my way just with the tip of the knife all the way through. And as it comes off at that side, let's pull that down there a little bit. Take that off there, and if I'm very careful here, I can leave the insides inside. So you can see through those bones there, so you can see I've taken all the flesh off all the way to the backbone. Okay, and I've left its guts and bits and pieces in place. I'm going to pop that in my little tub there, out of the way. So what I've also done now is I've taken the rib cage off with this. So what I need to do is just slide the knife underneath the rib cage and take that off also. Anybody else know what I need to do next?
Any chefs know what his next stage is? Put your hands up. Go for it, Ewan.
Pinbone it?
I need to pinbone it. Yeah, do you know the best way of pinboning a mackerel? Especially when they are as fresh as these ones are?
Can you actually do a type of, like a V-cut down?
Exactly that, a V-cut. I'm going to V-bone them, yes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the bone line, which is down the middle there. I'm going to cut down one side of it, and I'm going to cut down the other side of it. So what that's going to do is the flesh in between the bones is going to form like a little chain almost, which is going to hold the bones together. So all I need to do now, if I can, is just pull and go again and just pull again. And what's happened is all the bones have come out on that little strip. Yeah. So that's my mackerel there. And if I just kind of just tweeze it apart a bit, you can see where I've just made that little cut. If I do that there, you can just see where I've made the little cut all the way down to the flesh. And as you said correctly, it's V-boning. You could do it with a pair of pliers or a pair of fish tweezers, but that is quite long and arduous. And with the mackerel flesh being as soft and as delicate as it is, you would end up pulling the fish to pieces when you try and do this. So the best way of doing it is knife down one side, knife down the other, and just pull those bones out of the center on the skin, on the flesh that's there, that's holding them together. So I'm just going to turn them over also. And what I want to do is I want to just score the skin very, very slightly. I'll tell you why this is going to happen in a second. So I like to score my fish. I don't know if you can see that. You can actually just see. Yeah, you can just. Oh, there you go. You can see if I do that. Quite close together and just nice, even strips. So there's a nice, even line between each one of them. Adds to presentation and also adds to the ease of cookery as well. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do this one straight rather than on an angle. So a really nice sharp knife. All you want to do, just press against the skin and it'll just give you a nice cut all the way through. So there you go. I've got to my 2 pieces of mackerel there. Nice off the bone, nice and fresh fillets and nice and easy. So I'm going to do 2 different things with these. I'm going to pan fry one of them and I'm going to seal the skin with a blowtorch with the other one. But to do that, I need to cook the skin first, technically. So I'm going to do that in a brine. So what I have here is a pot of brine that I made earlier, which is a 10% brine solution. That means basically 10% of the volume of that is salt and sugar, and the other 90% is water. So on a 10%, and if you're doing ratios on brines, it's always a percentage that you work on. So you can do a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many percent. You can do a 50% brine if you want, but that would be very, very strong. And so this is a 10% brine solution. As you saw in there, I've just put some herbs in as well, just to give it a little bit of flavor. So what I did is I measured out my 2 liters of water, or a liter of water that I've got in there. So there's 10 grams of salt and 10 grams of sugar. I boiled that 10 grams of salt and sugar in a little bit of water to dissolve them, and then I poured that into the cold water to bring the temperature of the brine down, and then I added the herbs in there as well. This is about room temperature now. You can do it cold, but room temperature is better because it actually soaks into the whatever you're brining better being at room temperature. So I'm going to place one of the fillets in there. I'm going to place the straight striped fillet in there. So that's going to just sit in there nicely. Let's bring you back to it again. There we go. So that's just sat in the brine there. It's going to sit there for about 20 minutes. So what that's going to do is that's going to remove some of the moisture from the fish and also impart some seasoning into it as well, which is technically curing in a way with less and salt and sugar. But what's going to happen is that's going to cook the skin for me. So when I blowtorch it later, it's not all going to shrivel up. It's going to stay nice and flat, and I'm going to be able to get a nice sear on that with the blowtorch. So this one, I'm just going to pop on this tray and then just put it over the back, and we're going to start our garnishes. So we're going to do a starter almost. I'll put this over here as well out of the way. We're going to do a starter and we're going to do a main course. So our starter is going to be charred mackerel or seared mackerel with sweet pickled fennel and a horseradish emulsion. So for this one, we need to make our sweet pickle. So a pan, some white wine vinegar, and some sugar. And this is about equal quantities as well. So I want a 50-50 on this one, because I want this to be nice and sweet, but have a sweet and sour effect to it. Does anybody know what? Excuse me. Does anybody know what this is called that I'm doing now? When you boil salt and sugar together to make a. Anybody?
Pickle?
Brendan?
Is it a pickle?
It's making a pickle, yeah, but what's it classically called? What would I be making classically? It is a pickle, but I can add this to other things as well. So I can add it to a tomato soup to balance out the acidity. I can add it to any kind of sauces that I'm making to balance out the acidity in the sauces with the sweet and the acid going in there as well. No, it's called a gastric. Yeah, so I'm making a gastric. So I'm just going to get that to the boil. All I want it to do is boil. I don't want to reduce it or anything, because I know I've got the right quantities of vinegar and sugar in there. So if I were to reduce that slightly, what would happen is some of that acid would evaporate away, and then it'd leave the sugar in there, which if I left it long enough would turn into a syrup. And then you can use that. I've used that before. I use that on the Great British Menu as well. I use that to make gastric fruits for my dessert. So I reduced this all the way to a syrup, which made it sweet but sharp. And then I put my fruits in there to macerate in that as well. So when you taste them, they had like a really nice sharpness to them, but the sweetness of the fruit brought it through as well, which was really cool. Okay, so that's coming to the boil in there now, and this sugar's just about to dissolve. That's all I want to do. I just want to dissolve the sugar, so I'm going to take it off and put that to the side there, and I'm going to prep the fennel. So we're going to just take the top off the fennel. I'm going to cut the fennel in half. Just take out a little bit of the root, not a lot. And then this mean piece of kit here, which is a mandolin, I'm going to slice this very, very thinly. So I get my setting. That's it. So all I'm doing here is pretty much shaving the fennel to make it really, really thin, which will do one or two things. It'll allow it to take on the pickle quicker, and it'll give it a nice thin mouth feel as well. So you're not chewing on a massive piece of fennel when you put it in your mouth. So I want this to be like almost like a little wilted fennel salad once it goes into the gastric. So as you can see there, that's really nice and thin, almost onion thin if you're going to slice onions. So I need my pot for this, which is this one here. So I'm going to put the fennel in there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the pickling liquor over there, warm now as it is. So what that's going to happen is it's going to cook it in two ways. It's going to cook it with the heat, but not cook it all the way because it's not hot enough to be able to actually physically cook it. And it's going to cook it with the acid also, which is in the vinegar. So I'm just going to pop this to one side. I'm actually going to pop it in the fridge to allow it to cool a little bit quicker because I want it cold to go on our mackerel dish. Okay, we're going to do something for the next dish now because that's going to take a little bit of a while to do as well. So for our main course, I'm going to do some sauté potatoes, which are going to turn into crushed sauté potatoes. So let's give my board a bit of a wipe. Any questions as we're going, guys, please feel free to dive in. So I'm not doing all the talking. So I'm just going to slice these new potatoes. These are raw new potatoes. I'm going to leave the skin on. Okay, so I've got a pan on here. Just going to get that nice and hot, a little bit of oil in there, which is over here. Can you everybody see okay? Is everybody with it and in focus and stuff? Okay, so that pan's getting hot. I'm just going to pop those potatoes in there. Let that pan heat up, and a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. That's it, the pan's coming to life slowly now. Okay, I've got the oven set at about 210 degrees as well. So what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to start them going in the pan with a little bit of oil, and I'm going to add some butter, give it a good toss around, and stick it in the oven and let them finish off in the oven so they go nice and golden brown. Because what I want from this is I want the sweetness of the potatoes and the caramelization to bring something to the dish also.
Can you edge the camera down a bit so we can see the pan?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
If I can. I might have to go over. Hold on, see if I can flip over. No. Nope, you're going upside down a bit. Oh, yes, I can do that actually. Can I hold? I'll extend my leg at the back.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
a good image. Yeah.
Thanks.
Is that better? Fantastic. We're in. Right.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so the takes are going now. Just have to remember to open the windows. I got told off the other day not for doing that. Okay, so I want them frying quite fiercely in there because I want to start the colouring process, and so they don't stick to the pan also, because the starch, as it's turning to sugar, also adds a sticking agent, almost like glue, so they'll stick to the bottom of the pan. So I need to keep them moving around till they get a little bit of colour and seal themselves. And then what I can do is I can whack those in the oven. Put a bit of butter in there now. I'm adding butter to these to cook them because I'm also going to use butter later to make the sauce to go with this dish. If I wasn't going to use butter to make the sauce, I wouldn't put butter in here now because you shouldn't confuse like fats together or like mixed dairy with oil and all that kind of stuff. The dish should be as it is on its own, but because I'm using butter a little bit later in part of this dish, I can use butter in this bit now too. Okay, so I'm just going to let that foam up nicely, which it is, and I'm going to chuck this in the oven. There we go. So for the next part of the first mackerel dish, which is going to be our starter, I'm going to make a horseradish emulsion in this bad boy here. So does anybody know what an emulsion is? Or how I'd go about making an emulsion even?
Isn't it like a paste almost?
It is. I mean, an emulsion is, if you think about it in the way of paint, it's basically just an emulsion of oil and water. So what we're hoping to do with that is we're hoping to hold it together as an emulsion, because you know when you get white emulsion paint, it's very white and very thick and very sloppy. Pretty much that's exactly what I'm looking for here is the whiteness of it. And it doesn't matter what you add to it or what color oil you add to it. When you add water to something, it turns white. So I'm just going to use normal everyday sunflower oil because it has no color and no taste. I don't actually want anything imparting any flavor into this apart from the flavor that I put into it, which is horseradish. So to do this, I've got 2 eggs. I only want the yolks, so I'm going to separate the eggs. He says these are very fresh eggs as well. They don't really want to separate. So that's going into there. It's quite difficult to do for such a small amount, actually, because I'm used to doing maybe 6 yolks, which gives me like a full jug of emulsion. So doing 2 yolks here, I'll have to do it a little bit more carefully. So also into there, I've got some horseradish cream. So that's going to get a good spoonful of that because that's our flavour or where our flavour is coming from. So 2 good spoonfuls of that going in there. And then to start it and to get the emulsification going, I want a little bit of tepid water, which is basically hand temperature. So let's get my tap running a little bit over here out of sight. Because if you put cold water in it, what that would do is shock the oil. We don't want to shock the oil to allow it to split. We want it to kind of sit there happily together. Because the oil's at room temperature, the water that you put into it has to be at room temperature also.
Craig, what's your favourite thing to cook?
My favourite thing to cook, I mean, lots. I mean, I enjoy doing lots of things. My favourite thing to do at the moment, or my favourite way of cooking, I don't know if you guys have been on my Facebook page, is smoking. I got a smoker for my birthday last year and didn't really have much time to use it. So now this is my learning period to learn how to use this smoker properly, really. But it just depends. The next thing I cook is my favourite thing because I want to do it right and I want to get the best out of it. If I was to say an ingredient that is my favourite to cook with, that's probably fish. Eventually, me and my wife have this retirement plan of wanting to disappear to Cornwall and have like a little 15 to 18 seater restaurant to ourselves that we just get the fresh fish from the harbour and then we can just do amazing fish dishes. I do actually like cooking with fish. I like it a lot. So I'm just going to put a little bit of water in there now. So what I want to do is bring this together. Might make a bit of a noise now, but hopefully you better hear me over it. I won't do it too fast or too loud anyway. So these bits of kits are absolutely amazing, the old Thermomix. So I'm just going to put it on just a slow stir. This is on number 2 at the moment. I don't know if I might be able to. Hold on. If I can. You see in there? Literally just stirring it. There's nothing else happening there. It's just stirring it together. iPod's decided to disassemble itself now as well. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to pour oil in very, very slowly to allow that emulsion to start happening. So an emulsion is basically like oil and water emulsify together and form a thicker liquid. I'm not too sure how old the guys are that are listening out there now, but on old cars you used to get emulsification under the oil cap when the oil and water used to mix together in your cylinder head, and you used to know when your car was knackered basically because you'd lift your oil cap off and it'd be white underneath it. That's when you know you were getting water into your cylinder head. But you guys won't be old enough to know all that probably. Okay, it's starting to get a little bit thicker. I'm just going to turn it up just so it carries on stirring. So the thicker it gets, I want it to stir the same way. When it starts to get too thick, that's when I add a little bit of water. So that's where the emulsification starts happening. It's a very, very, very slow process, and you need to do it slowly to make it right. A little bit of water going in there now. So bring it back down again. More oil going in there now. I smell my potatoes cooking in the oven, so I'm going to have a little stir of those in a second. Cooking's all about using all these senses as well. It's not just about sight and taste. It's about hearing. It's about smell. It's about all the different things that are going on around you and being aware of everything that's happening in the kitchen around you at the same time as well. This is going to take pretty much most of this oil. So all the oil's gone in there. So there's probably about 500 mils of oil gone in there. It's actually going to need a little bit more. Luckily, here's some oil prepared earlier. So whilst we're going, I'm going to add a little bit of salt to that now. And then we'll start adding a little bit more oil. As the emulsion starts to come together, you can add the oil a little bit quicker. But like anything, like making hollandaise or anything like that, which is basically an emulsion also, I need to be very, very careful you don't overwork it, because if it splits, you can't bring this one back. If you split a hollandaise, you can bring that back with a little bit of boiled cream, but because this is cold, there's no way of bringing it back. It's like making, it's a mayonnaise basically, isn't it, that I'm making here? You can hear now that's starting to thicken up, so it's got all gluggy. What I'll do is I'll bring you back over. You can see that's got all nice and thick in there now, because it's not actually stirring itself. I'm going to give it a good. And then if I can show you that, you can see it's actually a really nice thick emulsion going on in there. That's what I'm looking for. That's really, really nice, that. So let's put that to one side for a second, put the Thermomix back out of the way. That's it. Right, I'm going to check my potatoes. So what we're looking for here is nice golden brown. So what's happening is the butter and the oil are starting to colour these up really, really nicely, and they're starting to go a little bit soft, which is good. A little bit longer in the oven for those though. Crank that oven up. So for the next bit of that dish, I've got my first dish pretty much done, which was the pickled fennel, which is in the fridge cooling down and marinating nicely. I've got the emulsion, which we just made in the thermo jug there. And then we need to like a little bit of lemon oil, which is going to be a garnish to go around and through this as well. So the way I'm going to do that, and I want a bit of colour to this oil as well. So I'm going to use a really, really good quality, as you can see, that's pretty much bright yellow, and really good quality rapeseed oil. So this is an English extra virgin rapeseed oil. So you could buy lemon oil if you wanted to, but the way I like to do it is I buy a base oil, which this one is, because there's no flavour to it, and then I add an essential oil to it to actually make my lemon oil. I've got some MSK lemon oil flavour extract here. So what I'm going to do, and also by doing this, I can make the oil the intensity that I want it as well, rather than it just being a generic oil that I buy from the shop with the flavour they want to put in it. I'm actually making this the flavour that I want it. So it's a cheaper way of doing it, because you're not buying a big bottle of very lackluster flavoured oil. You're actually buying a bottle of base oil, and you're actually adding your flavour to it. Whatever you want to do to it, most essential oils that you can buy from health food shops and so on and so forth will allow to be added to an oil to make that flavour oil, basically. So that's really nice. I can tell by the smell of that that's got the flavour that I want in there. So that's going to go over there because we don't need that for the second. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to concass some tomato because this is going to be a little bit for my sauce. I'm going to concass it just raw like this because I haven't got a little pan of water on to actually blanch the tomato in. But more often than not, 9 times out of 10, if you were going to do tomato concass, you'd blanch it first and to allow the skin to come off easier. But I'm just going to do this way. And what we're going to make here is we're going to make a tomato and mussel beurre blanc. Anybody know what a beurre blanc is?
Isn't it a white wine sauce or just a white sauce?
A white sauce would be a bechamel.
White wine?
It's a white. It has white wine in it. Yeah, you are correct. Beurre. What's English for beurre?
Is it butter?
It is. It's a white butter sauce I'm going to make. Absolutely, a white butter sauce. Which in exactly the same principle again as making an emulsion. This is an emulsion. So what's going to happen is I'm going to finely chop some shallots and put it in a little bit of white wine. Reduce that white wine down. And once the white wine's pretty much all disappeared, I'm going to emulsify some cold butter into it, which will then melt and make our nice beurre blanc. You can cheat if you want the butter sauce to hold together a little bit better by adding a little bit of cream before you put the butter in, because that adds a little stabilization in there, but that's a cheating method. If you do that, then it's not classed as a classical beurre blanc. And if I was your lecturer and you were doing a beurre blanc sauce for me and that's why you're putting cream in it, I'd fail you. So a little bit of heat under this pan. Just need to open this bottle of wine. There's my wine opener. Put that back in. Oh, that smells good. Okay, so over the back here somewhere, there we go. I've got a shallot, so I'm just going to pop that tomato to one side for a second, give myself a bit of a wipe. And finally dice the shallot, because I'm going to leave the shallot in the sauce as well, because it adds a little bit of body and a little bit of flavour. If you're just making a reduction for hollandaise, for instance, or a béarnaise reduction, you would put the shallot in with the vinegar or in with your acid, reduce it away, and then remove this from it. So you just got the liquid. But I'm actually using this reduction. I want the shallots to stay in there, so I need to chop them nice and finely. Across that way, one across there, and back across. Should be enough for what I need. So that's just going to go in the pan. Splash my white wine, just going to go over the top. So you can see in the pan there, just got a nice fine chopped shallots, and we've just got a nice little bit of white wine. So it's going to sit in there. I'm going to bring that to the boil and reduce it down very slightly. Then once it's got to the level of reduction that I want, which is pretty much all the way away, I'm going to add butter to it very, very slowly. So we're nearly coming to the part where we start putting these things together. So I'm going to chop a little bit of dill because I want some dill to go through my fennel also.
Oh, hi there, Tammy. Have you got a question, Tammy?
If you have, fire away.
I think she's got her hand up, but she hasn't unmuted herself yet, Craig.
She might want to go to the toilet.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to bring my fennel back out, which is here. That's come down really nicely. You can see it's gone all nice and limp now. So I'm just going to drain that off. Give it a little squeeze. Tease it back out again. So you can see that's pretty much halved its volume now, I would say, because it's wilted down a little bit in the acid and the residual heat from that mixture as I pulled it off the stove. Going to add our dill into there to give it a bit of colour as well as a little bit of flavour, and a little bit of salt just for seasoning. So that's that ready to go there. Let's pop it there and keep it there. Our reduction's coming down nicely. That's it. My potatoes have taken on the colour I want them to now. So if I let that butter die down, you can see those potatoes are taking on just really nice golden brown colour. And they're nice and soft. So I need to drain those off now too. I want to keep them in the pan if possible, because I want to crush them now. Keep a little bit of that oil in there as well, because that's just going to give us a little bit of extra flavour when we do crush them. Let's grab a fork. And then just give them a really nice light crush. I want to keep a little bit of the integrity and keep a little bit of the flavour and as it is. I don't want to crush them down too much, but I want to make them just nice and soft and make it almost like a crushed potato, roast potato salad, which that's going to be really nicely just there. What I want to do is just give that a little taste to make sure the seasoning is correct. Bit of salt into there. Oh, that's hot. And that's ready to go also. So this is reduced down now. You can see it's reduced pretty much most of the way away from the wine I put into it. Let's start and do our emulsification. So really, I diced some butter so I can just pull out one block at a time, because this is quite important that you don't put too much butter in, because what that's going to do is as it's melting, it's going to shock and it's going to split. We don't want that to happen. So I've turned the heat down, so there's a little bit of heat under there to allow the butter to melt, but it's not going to boil. Very, very important that we never reboil a beurre blanc also, because that would allow it to split as well. So just one little block at a time and stir it until that's gone. And what you'll see happening is this will eventually thicken up, because the butter won't split into its component parts, which is the clarified butter and the buttermilk. What we're doing is we're hopefully trying to keep it together as one and just melt as an emulsification rather than melting back to its individual bits, which is the buttermilk and the clarified butter, which is where it stays nice and white also. Just stirring together nicely. It's very important you take your time to do this bit. So I can't just chuck the butter in and walk away and do something else. I have to actually make the sauce now, because if I walk away from it and then start adding butter to it again in a second or two, there's a chance of it to split then also. So I can add a little bit of a bigger block of butter now, because I've started the emulsification process. So in a similar principle to making the emulsion, I can actually start adding a little bit more. I think this is probably going to be my last block, which is really cool. That's starting to thicken up just the way I want it to. So I just need to let that butter disappear. Nearly there. So that butter's all now emulsified in. Lovely. I'll get a spoon. I can show you that. Really nice, just emulsion sauce there. So I'll put that on the back just to keep warm. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of chopped tarragon, the tomatoes and the mussels in there right at the end, and just warm it back through again. I don't want the mussels to cook any further, because I cooked them perfectly to start with to get them out of the shell. I'm looking just to warm those mussels back up and bring the flavour back together and bring the flavour out of them. So should we start putting these dishes together, I think? Okay, so let's bring our mackerel back across that's been sat in our brine. Give that a good dab off. And dry it out nicely. I can tell that's brined really nicely, because the flesh is starting to go a little bit sticky. So I'm going to dry the flesh off nicely as well. And I'm going to pop it onto this tray here because I don't want to burn it on here or anywhere else, but I'm going to burn it on somewhere that I know is okay. I'm also going to stick it on a pan as well because I don't want the heat to go through to the work surface. So there's nothing underneath it now apart from that pan. So when I start blowtorching that, it's going to just, the heat's not going to go anywhere that I don't want it to go, basically. So let's bring a couple of plates across and let's see what we start doing. So two nice plates here. I've got a dark one, the lighter one. The light one I'm going to use for the torched mackerel, and the dark one I'm going to use for the seared mackerel. So if I put that one there, you see that? Yeah, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to torch the mackerel and pop it onto the plate. So I've got the blowtorch here. So as you can see, the mackerel skin's not curling up too much because it's already been kind of pre-cooked. Oh, it's my stove saying I put a timer on there, which I didn't. Just turn it off, there we go. And what's happening here is I'm torching or searing the skin with the blowtorch to get some really nice flavour into it, which is going to happen there. But the skin is protecting the flesh, but the heat from the blowtorch is going to go through to the flesh and give it a really kind of a mellow cook in a way. And that's also what the brine's done. So it's kind of, it's semi-raw under there, but it's also got a nice little bit of heat running through it to make it just cook nicely. So that's probably about as much as I want to do it. So you can see how it's gone really quite black, that skin now. Stand you back up again. Okay, move that to that side. Okay, so with my lifter, so I'll pop that on the plate there. My fennel. Just going to sit a nice big bit of fennel at the head of the mackerel, but not on the head as such. My emulsion. Just going to go there. If I was doing this properly or doing it in the restaurant, this will go in a squeezy bottle and it'd be a nice kind of big dome there of the emulsion, which is really, really nice. Nice big frond of dill just to sit on there as well, just to bring that through. A nice bit of colour. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one line of lemon oil down the mackerel and a couple around it. So if I can bring you back into that one again, if I can just reverse my camera, which I probably... There we go. So that's our first dish done. So that's the torched mackerel, torch and brine mackerel with the pickled fennel and the horseradish emulsion and our lemon oil. Put it back up there. You don't want to see my window, do you? So let's move this one out of the way over here. I'm sure my wife will love this for her lunch in a minute or two. And let's bring this plate into here. We're going to get our pan on to sear our other piece of mackerel now. Turn that up so it's quite high. So I've got a little bit of samphire here as well, which is going to just garnish this dish really, really nicely. Out of season at the moment, but it's a really nice little accompaniment to mackerel, so it's got a nice saltiness to it. Okay, so let's get this pan going, get a little bit of oil in the pan. A nice non-stick pan to allow my mackerel to sear really nicely in it. Bring my piece of mackerel back over that we did earlier. So what I'm going to do is going to pop it on the board, and because we haven't done anything to this one, I'm just going to season it very, very lightly with a little bit of salt. So my pan's getting hot there, which is really cool. Let's get my ring that I had earlier. Louis ring. That's behind here, isn't it? There we go. So I'm going to put the ring on the plate. Bring that potato back. So I want to build this dish because once the mackerel's cooked, it needs to go on the plate and be served, basically. Press that potato in there. So yeah, it's really nice. Pan's getting nice and hot now because I can smell it. I can smell the oil getting hot. So I'm just going to pop my mackerel fillet in there. Give it about 10 seconds on the flesh side. I'm going to turn it over onto the skin and cook it all the way on the skin. So what's going to happen there is the skin is going to protect the flesh from cooking too much from the direct heat of the pan, but also the skin is going to go nice and crispy. As we can hear that cooking in there nicely. Let's bring our beurre blanc back to the front and just pop that on and get it nice and warm. So our mussels are going to go in there. And our tomato. Also got a nice little bit of tarragon here as well, which is going to add a nice little complement to it. So I'm going to chop a little bit of tarragon through the sauce. Very, very important if you're using fresh herbs, especially soft ones, that you add them at the end of cookery rather than at the beginning, because what's going to happen is it's going to kill the flavour and kill the colour. And the best thing about fresh herbs is that vibrant greenness that you get from them. Beautiful, that's cooking really nicely there. I don't want to cook this all the way. I want a nice pink piece of mackerel as well, so I don't want to cook it all the way. And that is perfection. If I bring that up to you there, you can see it's got a really nice golden brown crispy skin on there. Yeah, so I'm just going to pop that onto there. A couple of pieces of samphire just to garnish the top. And we're going to bring our sauce forward and then just let it pool on the plate naturally. So get all our garnish in there as well, because that's where the flavour comes from. And then, just to add a nice little bit of difference, I'm going to put a nice little bit of smoked rapeseed oil around that as well, which is going to add a different dimension and bring a nice little smokiness to the dish with the searing the mackerel itself. Let me bring you down to that one. You can see all the fresh flavours and colours going on in there. The bright green, the samphire with the tarragon, tomato, nice redness, really nice seared mackerel, and those really nice earthy roast potatoes underneath it that I've crushed to make it really, really flavourful. Okay, so there's my two dishes that I've prepared for you there, guys. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions, chefs? Put your hands up. Go for it.
Back to me now.
Yeah.
I know you haven't seen my face for the pretty much entire demonstration, but I can go back to my face.
We got a question from Jay, looks like.
Hi, Jay. Ask away.
So, who was your biggest inspiration, and like what kept that fire burning to for you to pursue your career as a chef?
My biggest inspiration as a chef was a guy called David Everett Mathias from Le Champignon Sauvage in Cheltenham. Let's move, if I can just move very slightly, because I've got right across the middle of my face. There we go. A guy called David Everett Mathias, chef called David Everett Mathias from Le Champignon Sauvage in Cheltenham. He basically moulded my career, if that's what you want to call it, because I got in touch with him at a very young age when I was at college. I went and did a stage with him, which is a work placement for 2 weeks over the Cheltenham Race Festival, which was in March, I think. And then I kept in touch with him, basically. So he kind of said to me, oh, you can go here now, go here now. And when I was at the Lords of the Manor in Upper Slaughter, like I said earlier of my little bit of bio when I started, the chef, Clive Dixon, came up to me one day and said, oh, by the way, you're going to work for David next week. I'd not applied for a job or I'd not known what was going on. I just got told I was moving. So I had to literally find somewhere to live, pack up all my stuff and then move the next week to go and work for David at the Champignon Sauvage. I worked for him for 3 years. And in that time, learned a massive amount, because at that point, he's a bit bigger than he was now, because I think it's a 60-seater restaurant. But when I was there, it was 28. And then it was 1-to-1. So there was only 2 chefs in the kitchen, me and him. So basically, he treated me as the son he never had. And we used to go out foraging. We used to go out kind of to the local farms and find the best produce and the fish markets around and about and find the best stuff on days off. You know, I mean, I never used to have days off pretty much, because we used to go out on those days foraging and getting the best stuff for the menus the following week and things like that. So yeah, that learned me a massive amount, and I still hold him in very high regard.
Well, thank you very much.
Amazing. I think Giles had his hand up as well. Giles, are you still got your question?
No.
You all answered now, yeah? Anyone else got any questions for Craig?
Come on, guys. There's 50 odd of you out there. I've only had about 3 or 4 questions.
Go for it, Harrison.
What inspired you to go onto the Great British Menu?
It's just something I've always wanted to do. I think any chef that's aspiring and wants to take their career to the next stage kind of wants to get themselves out there on telly a little bit, don't they? And get a little bit of the limelight and so on and so forth. But I also wanted to prove myself that I could stand up there with some of the best chefs in the country and stand toe to toe and fight a good fight, basically. And I think that I proved that. And that was more for me, really, if anything, to get myself out there on a national stage in front of God knows how many million people and be able to stand there with all these fantastic chefs in the country and say, look, I'm one of these guys.
That's brilliant. Yeah, it's amazing. I've got a question for you as well. Have you got any advice to give to the students? They're just starting their career now at college. If you had to give one advice, what would you give?
It's the 3 L's, I think. It's look, listen and learn. So basically all you can do, or all you can be asked to do by anybody, or even yourselves really, is just look what you're being shown, listen to what you're being told, and learn from it. And that's the way you'll go through your career. And I tried to do that through my entire career, and I've worked for many, many good chefs in my career, and each one of them I've done exactly that. I've watched what they've been doing and showing me. I've listened to exactly what they've told me, and I've learned from it and taken my style from there as well, because as I am where I am now, I'm sure if I put my food in front of somebody who knew the other chefs that I'd worked for, they'd be able to see elements of them in my style and in my cookery.
That's brilliant. I think Giles has got his hand back up now. Giles, you got a question?
Yeah. What did you like best about the education you got?
The education I got was fantastic. When I was at Lancaster and Morecambe College, it was a centre of excellence back then, and it was really good. And I can honestly say that's probably one of the best times of my life, because the education was delivered in a fun way. So you were actually learning but enjoying what you do, and it wasn't kind of it wasn't hard knocks as such. And it was just very, very interesting. And I was just a sponge at that time as well, because I was just literally at the start of my career, which was the when you need to start learning to walk. Really, there was no running involved at that time. I was literally learning to walk in the kitchen. And there was two inspirational things that people said to me that spurred me on also. One of them was my lecturer, which was a guy called Robert Marshall Slater. He said one day, we'd finished our service because we did realistic working environments. I'm pretty sure you guys do it as well, where you actually have a kitchen to run for a restaurant full of people, yada, yada. And at the end of that service, we used to go down the pub. And I said to the lecturer at that point, "Are you going to buy me a beer, sir?" And he said, "I'll tell you what, I'll buy you a beer when you can stand on your own 2 feet in a kitchen." So he still owes me that beer, and I think I've proved myself over my time that I can stand on my own 2 feet. And the other one was a guy called, John Bond, who was the head chef at a place called the Broadway Hotel in Morecambe, where I was a part-time chef while I was at college. And he said to me one day when I came in, I'd not long been there, not long started the job, and he said to me, "Where do you want to be in, with your career, and where are you going with that?" I said, "Well, I want to be the best I can be, and get to the best place I can, and if I own my own restaurant or something like that." And he actually said to me, "Yeah, I came out of college with all those fluffy ideas, and look where I am." So basically I can do that to him now and hold 2 big fat fingers up at it and say, I've got where I want to go because of the inspiration. And I've always held those two comments with me all the way through my career, thinking, I want to get that beer off that lecturer and I want to prove that other guy wrong. And I think I've pretty much done that, which is cool.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Oh,
That's
good.
amazing.
Nice.
I've got someone, my boss, Mrs. Grace, has raised her hand as well. So, Miss Grace, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, Craig, and thank you so
Hello.
much. Hello. I've learned so much from you this morning, so thank you very, very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
My question to you would be, we've got lots of youngsters that are going out to industry. Does industry think that we are lacking any skills in our teaching to give to these young people? Is there any skill you feel that we're not honing in on?
I think, if anything, the point that I touched on earlier, I don't think it's anything that you guys are doing, because you're giving them the best grounding that you possibly can do to send them out into the career, to pass on to us, to carry on their career and carry on their learning, really. It's very, very much down to the student to do as I asked earlier, or the point that was made earlier is basically to look, listen and learn. And if they can take as much of that on board from you guys that you're doing at the college before they step out into the big wide world of work, and then you've done your job properly, basically. So, all I could ask you guys to do is basically just keep doing what you're doing, because I think the state of education, or the standard of education, and the college students that are coming out from all these fabulous colleges at the moment is absolutely amazing. Because we did go through a bit of a rough patch where catering wasn't seen as a career or a vocation or whatever. It was just seen as something that you could do if you didn't do very well at school, and you didn't get very many GCSEs or whatever. But now I think the guys that are coming through are more, they have more passion, they have more want, they have more drive to be able to do the job properly. And that's all because of you guys giving them the grounding to start with, and the realistic working environments as well. Not spending 3 weeks how to learn to do a bechamel, not spending, 2 weeks how to make a consomme or something like that. It's realistic working environments and time pressures and time scales that you're putting on these guys to be able to make them come into the industry with a good grounding and a good basic knowledge of what goes on. So yeah, you're doing really well. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we need to round it up now because we've got some of our students got to go off to lessons. But Craig, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you for those 2 dishes. If you can stay on the line,
pictures of them, and she'll send them to you on the on Messenger like I did earlier, and you can stick them in the link or whatever, and blah blah blah, so the guys can see the pictures also.
That would be awesome. If you could stay on the line, Craig, as well, that'd be great. Rest of the chefs, you can go off to your other lessons, and all feel free to say thank you to Craig as you go.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just let them all go, Craig, quickly for 2 seconds, if that's okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just got a couple left to go. Slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, the picture's improved immensely.
It changes with more on it, doesn't it? Yeah. Awesome. That's fantastic. So I've got my boss online and my colleague here as well, Andy, is another chef lecturer at Farnborough. Thank you very much for that, Craig. That was amazing.
You're very welcome.
It's great to see the industry connecting with colleges, and the students love it. They talk about it afterwards, which is great. So I send some comments across to you as well. What they say is it's good. It's good to read.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and if you want to stick my email in a link, if you're going to put it back out to the students, I mean, some of them are a little bit shy, aren't they, and don't want to ask any questions at the time, and you always think of questions afterwards. And if you want to stick my email in a link as well, and if they want to email me and ask me questions as well, I don't mind that. That's absolutely fantastic.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. You tend to find that with FE students, especially our lot. They don't say anything. They just sit there. And they
so they're sat there thinking, I really want to ask this question, but then because they don't want it to come across as a silly question or whatever. But and afterwards as well, you're I should have asked that question. So if they want to, then that's absolutely fine. Or if you guys want me back again at any point, just give us a shout, and I'd be more than willing to do another one for you.
Oh, that'd be fantastic, Craig.
Or when we open back up again and we can actually see each other face to face, if you do guest chef evenings or whatever, and I'd love to come down and maybe do one of them with you as well.
Well, that was just going to be my next question to you. If you, I know you're a very, very busy man, but if you could come down and see us, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love to do something like that. Great.
Yeah, it'd be lovely. Thank you. Really appreciate your time.
I was going to ask whether you in your restaurant, whether you have do you stick to a style or and add trends in, or do you sort of cook whatever floats your boat at the time?
I think I cook whatever floats my boat, really, and whatever's in season. My menus are very, very seasonal, so it's literally what I can grab from wherever we are at the time, and it can change from week to week as well. If I'm getting good game off somebody one week and he says, "Oh, unfortunately, that's the last bit of that," then I'll move on to something else. I don't know if you guys follow me on Facebook or whatever, but I've been doing quite a bit of stuff at home in the last couple of weeks where I got some wild mallards from my local gamekeeper the other day. I did a demonstration the other day with that where I smoked it and cooked it, but with the other mallards I'm making smoked duck ham with that, so it's in the garage at the moment drying. So it's all about literally what's bang on in season at this point, and just making it all good. I try and put trends in there as well because it makes it interesting for the chefs that work for me and with me as well. And I like them to bring ideas to the table too, rather than it just being my menu that I write and go, oh, there you go, that's what we're cooking this week. And we'll have a little weekly chefs meeting on a Friday of what we can find for the week after from supplier specials or whatever, and so on and so forth. And over the weekend, they'll write some ideas up for Monday's menu. And then we'll get back together on Monday. We'll talk about it. If it's a good idea, but not quite right or not quite where I see it going, then I'll add my input into it saying that's a fantastic idea, but how about going here, here, and here with it and making it a menu-worthy dish? And they'll go, oh, actually, yeah, I didn't think about that. So that gives them the inspiration to cook the dish properly as well, because it's their idea in essence, but with my kind of guidance and inspiration onto it to show them where I'd want that dish to be if they were to bring me another idea. So I think that kind of allows them to think outside the box too and make a little bit of headway for themselves as well, rather than me just giving them a menu, like I said, and going with it. So
yeah. And do you follow the Matthias principle of always being there every service?
yes, very much so. I mean, obviously it's a 7-day-a-week operation, Lumley Castle, so I can't be there every day. So I've got to have days off, but I normally try and have the quietest days off where I can let my sous chef take the reins of the kitchen, and then I'll be back there for the main days of the week. Yeah, it's a very, very busy operation though, so I've got to be in lots of different places at the same time. So like I said at the beginning of the demonstration, we can Lumley Castle at the moment's got a fine dining restaurant, and we have a bar and grill, room service. We have functions for anything up to 300 people, and all that can be going on at the same time. So I've got to get my running shoes on and be all over the castle as well. It doesn't all come from the same kitchen. So I've got to kind of go upstairs and run and send a starter with whoever I've put on there to do that with, then come back to the pass downstairs and run a little bit more of the service in the fine dining restaurant, and then run back upstairs and help send the main course, just to kind of, I'm not saying that's the kind of guy I am. I'm a control freak or whatever, but at the end of the day, if it's going out with my name on it, I want to make sure it's going out to my standard. So
Slightly different from the champignon then.
Massively different from Champignon, yeah. Especially when I was there as well. I think it's like a 60-seater restaurant now. I think they bought 2 houses next door and expanded into those 2 houses. But when I was there, it was just 2 terrace houses basically that were converted into a restaurant, which was 28 seats at the time. It was still intense because for 2 people, 28 covers. We were doing tasted menus. Everything was fresh for service every day. So it was very, very intense. But yeah, it's a completely different intense now.
Craig, how big is your brigade at the castle?
When it's at full steam, 12, but at the moment 4, because of everything that's been going on. We've had to lay kind of 6-8 staff off actually over the last bit of time. We've tried to do takeaway. We've tried to do a little bit of all that kind of thing, but our food doesn't really lend itself very well to takeaway. And it's a specialist. It's a niche. You want it for my food. You want to come and sit down and eat it in the restaurant and have the service and the wine and everything else to go along with it. It's no good being like kind of collected and dumped in front of you in a box that's been chucked in the back of somebody's car for half an hour while it's being delivered, really. So we tried that route and it did work. I did put quite a cool little menu on, and we did do a few, but we deemed not viable and not profitable enough to be able to carry on. So then we've been kind of fully furloughed now, really, which is why I'm doing this for you guys, to keep my hand in as well, to keep me cooking.
Well, we're very grateful.
Brilliant! It's absolutely amazing. But thank you for that, Craig. I'll get the coffee sorted out in a bit for you as well. But yeah,
whatever. I know that's just a way of me not asking for money as well. It was kind of because there's nothing worse than saying, right, that's going to cost you this much to do it. It's how much you kind of enjoyed it and appreciated it, how much the students got out of it, and just basically covering my cost of ingredients. So.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good idea. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
Fantastic.
And
if you want to get in touch again, then you can just get back in touch with me, and I'm sure we can arrange another date if this thing carries on longer than we expect it to. I'll be more than happy to join you guys again.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
You've got dinner at Farnborough waiting for you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Bye.